Didn't really want it on Facebook because there's almost now 25% of my friends there are agents. So
You know what? They could learn something from Bobby, you know?
mhm. Hopefully you can hear me too well. I've got a Rode. I don't have a lapel mic, but
Okay.
got a Rode mic here, and then it's kind of windy here, so I wanted to make sure that I could hear you well.
Yeah, I don't hear any feedback. So you're sounding good. Is that a remote Rode mic?
Yeah. So I've got a jack into RCA jack into the laptop.
Nice. Good. Yeah, I have to invest in that because my podcast, I got it all set up, but the microphone died on me, so I don't know what's going on there. But if you hopefully can hear me okay.
Yep, I can hear you well. Thank you. So we'll do some quick intros really quick. We're live here on YouTube. My name is Bobby Taruk with Team Taruk, a broker, residential brokers in Illinois, primarily out of the page. And our license is tied, or our business is tied with Keller Williams Premier Properties in Glen Ellen, Illinois. We are out of Warrenville. And primarily our focus has been on the page, but we can service clients within the color counties of Cook County in the Chicagoland market. So with us today is Bill Pendley with Caliber Home Loans. Bill, longtime friend already, I feel like. Known you for a while now, love you to death, and tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, and right back at you. In fact, Bobby has opened my eyes to a whole different world called pickleball. Show there, he's even got the paddle right there. I had no idea what to expect, but he brought me in the courts. What was that, like 2 weeks ago? That was awesome. So if you haven't ever tried playing pickleball, obviously you're not going to get on an outside court today in St. Charles or Illinois area, but where he's at, you can definitely do that. So I've been in the mortgage industry for 24 years and seen the good, the bad, the ugly with regards to the markets. And we're in a very interesting time right now. I work for Caliber Home Loans. I've been here for about 3 years. We recently got purchased about 2 or 3 months ago from a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust company called New Res. So we are getting bombarded with a ton of awesome products right now because they are really just leveraging their ability to purchase either they'll build the product or the company. We're buying companies left and right. In fact, we have a lot of really cool products that are coming through this Q1 phase. And that's one of the reasons why Bobby and I wanted to get on to this live stream, just because I think there's a lot of exciting times right now in the industry. He's down in Florida, which I'm living vicariously through him, just watching what he's doing on the Airbnb stuff. And it's exciting me. And that's a whole different world that I've actually been looking into. I'm an investor as well. I've owned real estate for 20 years. So I can tell you everything to know on the rental side as well. So we're here to just kind of, bounce things off of each other from the real estate side as well as the financing side, and just hopefully shed some light on some good warm vitamin D like the Bobby has on this world that we're living in,
Yep, thank you, Bill. So Bill, I don't want to cover too much about the financials, i.e. the interest rates, because that of course is in a flux right now. What I wanted to talk about is that I think we'll have an audience out there that may be thinking about either downsizing, retiring to warmer climate, of course, to the Sun Belt, or anyone thinking about purchasing a second home, primarily because the way I see it, and I've worked for a long time now and have an exposure in IT as well, is that COVID and all of the technology enablers, especially a shift in the culture, in the corporate culture as well, is there's a shift in allowing workers to be able to work anywhere. Google has this, Facebook has this corporate policy big companies like companies in the Bay Area, technology companies for the most part, are allowing their workers to work anywhere. I would imagine there may be a policy that it has to be a U.S. territory, but given COVID, given the technology enablers, and then given as well there may be some consideration with state taxes as well, income taxes. There's a lot of movement and migration, not just towards the Sun Belt, but in different areas of the country. What I know you have multiple licenses as well with different states. What are your thoughts on that? And how is that a big opportunity for you and I to be able to leverage?
Yeah, I'd say it. In fact, yesterday was the first time that I actually went back to our office. I would say maybe 2 months, and I think that we're all with the technology. You're right. We all are having the capability of working from our home space. For me personally, I just like it because I'm a salesperson. So if you're in front of a bunch of salespeople, you don't get any work done. But so I get much more work done just in this space than I would anywhere else. And I do like, and I think that people are starting to realize that if you got two sides of it, right? You got the corporate side that's saying, well, can I trust that these people are going to have the authenticity and like the integrity to actually work at home? But then you have the other people like myself and like yourself that are, okay, we wake up every day. We know we're kind of blessed to have this honor of having a career and a choice to work. So we got our game face on every day. So I think that there's kind of there's a balance there. But if you have that freedom to do so, then this allows you with the technology, especially with the Zoom calls and kind of the work smarter, not harder, it allows you to be in these different spaces. So there's a few different ways that I talk to people when they are looking to settle in a different location. I think the biggest concern right now is, okay, so how do we purchase in this market without going in with a contingency? How to buy now and sell later. The market's so hot right now that I think the stress to have two mortgages is much less than the stress to find the right place and actually settle, because if you got pushed out of your property on the sell, now you got to either pay a huge amount of rent or you have to settle for something maybe you don't want to purchase. So what we've been doing is really trying to figure out options for people to utilize their current equity. That's the beauty of this market, is that you see your neighbors sell for the price points they're selling. I've had clients come back to me and go on a cash out refinance. Maybe they're looking to remodel or something. They're going, oh my gosh, I didn't believe my house was even worth that. It is, because you think about the lack of inventory out there. So it's a beautiful kind of equation for somebody that maybe doesn't really necessarily understand it. That's why we're talking right now, because I feel like the market still doesn't quite understand that they do have that equity and they can utilize it to purchase. So a couple of ways we can do that. One is maybe taking out a home equity line of credit. I'm doing that right now for a client that's moving from Illinois to Colorado. So before he even lists his property, he said, I want to pull out $100,000 line of credit. That's going to allow me to go use that money to go purchase the other property in Colorado. And then once I move, in the process of moving, I'm going to put my house up for the listing, and then boom, perfect scenario. Now, obviously you have to qualify on both mortgages, but with people that have that equity, you can always look at that. And that's why if anybody's interested in that, we can set up a one-on-one consultation with actually both Bobby and myself to get on a call, and we can walk you through that. Bobby will be able to share with you what he feels like your house kind of from a bird's eye view is. And if you want to take the next step, he can do the individual consultation to go and do a CMA, which is an analysis on your property, and really give you the true value on that property. So that's the starting point. The other couple of options you have bridge loans. Bridge loan is another kind of dynamic where the lender on the back end knows that you're looking to purchase. So it's more of a short-term type of product. I do have a resource for that we can use. It's a local credit union here that said that they will allow us to actually send our bridge loans options through them. It's the same thing that you'd see as far as a home equity line of credit, except home equity line of credit, you're just setting up by yourself and using that down the road. So that's not a problem, but bridge loan is kind of a joint type of process where you have both lenders working with each other to use that equity to bridge the gap there for you.
So I want
Yes.
to clarify really quick. Thank you for that, Bill. That was a ton to absorb, but I want to clarify one thing really quick. So with a bridge loan, what I think I'm understanding is that it allows me, if I were the buyer, it allows me to make an offer on a purchase and now not really make it contingent on the sale of my home, which I have an equity on.
Yep.
And by the way, really quick, Pete Stats saying that I think there was Chicagoland, 40% equity gain in home equity gain in the last 3 years. So that's huge, that's significant. So I
Oh
think
gosh, yeah.
a lot of homeowners can truly benefit from this program. Again, to recap, they can make an offer on a purchase, not truly contingent. The way the offer is written, not contingent on the sale of the home. Did I get that correctly?
Correct. Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Good stopping point. Sometimes when I start talking, that's why Bobby's great at what he does. He's great at making sure he's catching things like that because I just start rambling. But yes, it's the goal here is to move you into a position because you also have to think about when Bobby's showing a property out there to anybody, you're working, especially right now. Let's just be honest, the spring market is turned on. It's already hot. Even though we're getting blizzard up here, it's really, really hot up here as far as the market. So you're still seeing multiple offers. So with that being said, you can't win a multiple offer. And a lot of times the sellers are looking at your terms. If you go in with 10 other people, and let's say you go in with the millennials who are purchasing right now, and you are contingent because you have to sell your property, the truth be told, you're not going to get that deal. Like you're not going to get into that house. So it's going to be very frustrating. So what we're trying to do is, once again, no pun intended, but break the ice as far as the inventory and help you kind of move into that position as a non-contingent buyer. I mean, you don't have anything holding you up because like I said, I think the better stress is going to be selling this house because Bobby is an ace real estate agent. He'll be able to sell your house in this market and really get you top dollar for that. So I think that's huge to actually be able to have that option. Now, there's a couple other ways you can do it too. So one is something that as Caliber, as a lender, we have an option called a recast. So what a recast means is, let's say you don't want to necessarily take the equity out right now and you have some liquid cash that you can use. So you just want to kind of leave that current existing home alone, and you just want to move into this new house, and you don't want to jack up your payments too high. So what you can do is put less down. So you can put maybe a 5% down or 10% if you have liquid cash to do that. And then after you sell your current property, you can use those proceeds to do what is a recast, meaning that you don't have to refinance, you don't have to take a higher interest rate, which a lot of lenders out there are going to force you to do. As a servicer, we can actually do a recast. And all that means is that you're taking that extra cash, putting it down to your principal balance, and they re-amortize the loan based on that current existing rate. So let's say you get today's market 3.625, you get that interest rate. You don't have to worry about refinancing into a 4.5 if rates continue to climb. You just stay right there at 3.625. And then you're off and running on the new loan with a new amortization with a lower monthly payment. Make sense?
Could be done away with PMI as well. Hey, Bill,
Yeah.
I want to share something really quick with you because I want to piggyback on our conversation right now, on our train of conversation or the pathway of our conversation. I heard there was one, I can't remember if it was an open house or someone showing a home. There were 40 people. This home was in Napier. There were 40 people waiting in line to get into a home. And mind you, this is what we're still, I can't remember, it's still end of January, beginning of February. But traditionally, the conversation that I'm hearing is that our market really starts right after Super Bowl. And mind you, Super Bowl is still 2 weeks away. 40 people in line. So this really is, I thought it was going to be a less crazy market this year, but looks to me it's as crazy as 2021 or as much crazier than 2021.
Yeah.
So
I would agree with you 100%. So here's a couple of things to think about. Like, I think, you know, as a landlord myself, so I have one property, I sold two others, liquidated those, and I have one left. And I feel like it's got 3 bedroom, one bath. She's paying 1,700. In this day and age, what landlords are doing is they're catching on, or the rental, the rental people are actually catching on to understand that the inventory is so low. So they're taking advantage of it. In fact, I have another lady that's down near you right now in Punta Gorda. I think she's Port Charlotte, just north of you.
Mhm.
And she was at $1,795 on her rent. And literally she just called me and said her landlord told her they're going to increase her rent to $500 more this year. And she's working off, she's retired, she's trying to live the retirement life. She's working off of Social Security and pension. That's more than what she's taking in. So this is, and here's kind of to understand why you're getting so many people that are out there, you have to look at the birth rate too, because the boomers are moving, right? That's one segment. And then you have the boomers' kids that are buying. So you get the millennials that are purchasing, and they don't want to pay the high rent. So if you look at the difference there, she just put in an offer yesterday, and her payment's going to be $1,100 on a condo. That's with everything included, with her association fee, with her taxes, with her insurance, with her principal and interest. You name it's $1,200 savings that she just gained. And not to mention, she's getting equity from that, where her landlord was going to bank on that equity all day long, and the cash flow,
for sure, the property managers and the property owners are catching on, because there's calculation and inflation. We know that inflation is 10 or more percent. All of our housing costs is figured into the calculation of the inflation nationally. I failed to finish the conversation as well. One of the things that are being masterminded or conversed about, at least in our market center, is reverse contingency. Now, what that means is, as an example, you have a seller, gets an offer, gets an offer on their home, gets a contract, but they haven't found a home yet, or they haven't even made an offer. So one of the things that we're thinking about is something called a reverse contingency. What that means is that it's written into the purchase agreement, where the seller will have 120 days or X number of days, whatever is agreed upon, for possession date. So these are the new things or nuances coming into the agreements. So Bill, I'm curious, what, aside from reverse contingencies, what are you seeing in your purchase contracts?
Wow, it's funny. I didn't even think about that, but I'm seeing that more so now. And attorneys, well, we're an attorney state. I don't think, Florida's not an attorney state, so you have the real estate agents that are kind of working with that. But attorneys up here just do not like the fact that there's rent backs, and some lenders will say that as well too. So like I'm working a deal right now. It's a 1.5 million purchase, putting about half down. So it's still a jumbo loan. And I looked at the guidelines with the investor, and they said no rent backs or lease backs for more than 60 days, because then all of a sudden it looks like an investment property to the lender. So there's some key verbiage that the agents and the attorneys need to understand while they're writing the contract. You can't extend that out for as many days as you think. Conforming loans, I'll have to double check on that, but at the same time, it's like, how long do you really need? I think that there's going to be one of those kind of, there might be some recreation of some rules there, but I have seen that, and that's becoming more prevalent right now when you're looking at people that, I think the higher dollar amount properties are moving right now. At least I'm getting a lot of applications on those. So those guys are like, wait a second, I wasn't expecting my house to move this fast, but those buyers are buying. So that's where you're kind of getting held up. Okay, well, now I got to go find something else, and I wasn't expecting to sell this for, as quick as I was,
Yep, absolutely. So buyers and sellers do definitely check with your lender partner, with your agent, how they can think outside of the box to solve specific problems that you are encountering. So Bill, I want to talk about something else. On our drive down here, I-75, I saw Canadian license plates, surprisingly, a lot of Illinois license plates,
Yep.
Minnesota, Michigan, upstate residents driving to Florida. Well, it's January, February. But for people who are thinking about purchasing a second home to snowbird, regardless of what age bracket they're in, I think incomes are getting higher, and then people have the affordability or the discretionary income to purchase a second home. Let's talk about that. How is that funded? What does that look like? Especially with the different licenses that you have with other states. Let's talk about that really quick.
So let me just understand the question. So you're just talking about their other income that they have? Is it like trying to
Secondary home, what's the scenario? How is that approach from a funding perspective with home loans?
Right. So so let's start with what I actually pulled that up too. So let's see. Okay, so what is considered a second home? Second home is a residence that you intend to occupy for part of the year and not necessarily your primary residence. So I get a lot of questions with regards to that. The key is how long you're planning on using it as a second home. So I did a quick search, and the IRS considers it about 14 days. And what you have to understand is that certain lenders will have overlays. They'll maybe put some extra set of rules on there going, I don't think that that's going to be the case. So we're going to put our own rules on there. And you'll find that a lot with banks and so forth, because they don't want to get stuck with, an investment property. And a lot of people can get pretty creative when it comes to how they're creating their secondary income when it comes to this. But I think if you stay within the lines there, that's typically going to be the case, where you're going to make sure that, hey, look, if you're in the property for, I think, 10% of the days that you own it or whatever, then that's going to be the key there. And I think that that's huge. I'm really excited about it. I think what we've seen in Illinois, for instance, is we've seen people come out of early, maybe start positioning themselves for early retirement. So they will take this option as a second home and maybe use the Airbnb as an option to maybe supplement the mortgage payment, so they don't have to necessarily pay that big chunk of change. And I think that's the biggest question right now, is what's your cash flow look like on Airbnbs? Which I think is something, the reason why we kind of initiated this conversation too. You're down there in Florida, you're looking at that option. The two questions you have when you're buying as an investor, or maybe the secondary residence you want to use the Airbnb, is what am I using this for? Am I using it as a cash flow base, or do I want to gain appreciation? I think we can all all look at that and say, I don't think appreciation is going to necessarily be there as much as it was last year, but the cash flow is definitely there. So what would you say, just kind of bouncing back at you with regards to the question, what was your reason for going down there? Like, just kind of share some transparency as to what your thoughts were when you're going and you're seeing all these other license plates, as you're going down there.
Yeah, most definitely snowbirding was one. Second primary reason is to scope out the area where we could purchase a second home, would be for snowbirding, and then take a look at the possibility of VRBOing it. It could be, I think it's kind of an equal between cash flow and also home equity. As an example, Phoenix was #1 in the nation. The last time I read, I think I got it to CNBC. Phoenix was #1 in terms of home appreciation. Tampa was next. Tampa is not too far from me. So I think this area as well, Charlotte County, has that trickle-down effect in terms of how homes are appreciating in the Tampa metropolitan area. And I think third one is Miami. But right now, the way I see it, it's kind of an equal goal, where we'd like to have some cash flow and income stream, and then also some equity gains. So it's twofold. I wouldn't say one is over the other. I think they're kind of equal in terms of priority right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I was looking at a few other places too, like Tennessee was one, like Gatlinburg.
Mhm.
The website, I wanted to bring this up too. I think we mentioned this before. This might have been on a phone call with Joan as well too, but Vacasa is a management company that I've actually looked into and asked them, because the other question you have too is, okay, so I'm an Illinois resident, right? How do you manage that out of state property if you're not there? Like, one of the things I
Right.
learned as being an investor is your proximity to the investment
Mhm.
creates that sense of, okay, obligation for the renter to pay you on time, and then also
Right.
not to deteriorate the property. But when you're
Right.
outside of that scope, it tends to, no, like there's a show that I love called
Yeah.
Brain Games, and one of the things they've done on that was they put a set of eyes on a kiosk and said free money. Nobody grabbed the money when they saw the eyes, but when they took the eyes away, all of a sudden these people were grabbing. It was just weird. That's just the mind mentality of the human nature, is that when we know somebody's watching us, we're not gonna break the law as much as what we would if they weren't watching us. So how would you suggest? I mean, I thought of Vacasa as being a management company, but what were your thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, I haven't really gone down into detail around researching that, but the main principle, I think what you're talking about is, I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan, as you know, and Dave always says,
Me too.
don't be a distance landlord. What that means is that you have to be able to check in your property, especially if it's a huge property, it's a home, a 2,000 square feet home. You have to be able to check on the property to make sure that your tenant is not changing their engine oil on the motorcycle in the living room. That's one thing. So just expounding on that principle, I totally get that. But I think when you have a property management company that can oversee, give them maybe 10% of the income on the property, if you have a property management company that's local and that can oversee and do all of the maintenance on your property outside of Illinois, I think that's a good model to pursue.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
still following, I totally get Dave Ramsey's principle, but I think there's a model to still be able to work an out-of-state landlord or property owner.
Yeah, I mean, I love Dave too, and I'm not questioning, but there's obviously you get the guys like the rich dad, poor dad, that they are best friends, but they have different angles to get to the same road of success, right? And I think it's just a matter of what field you're playing. If you're in the industry as a real estate investor and agent or loan officer, you're kind of closer to the rules, and you watch it every day. But if you're not, and let's say that you're doing some other industry, it's a little harder to do that. So it's kind of one of those things where I think if somebody wanting to get into the Airbnb or the investment route, a management company, if I was always against it. Like, I saw my parents do it and my brother do it, and all of a sudden the management company took full advantage of the situation. They were overcharging on just changing a doorknob. Like, it was like $85 to change a doorknob, when it was like, wait a second, that was like maybe a 5-minute project and a $10 doorknob. Like, are you kidding me? So it's one of those things where I think that if you have a company, and I think that you're probably going to see more companies like this kind of surface. And I talked to one of the other loan officers that is doing this right now. He's bought 2 in Tennessee. He's working his way down to Florida and doing another one. And he said that he loves what Vacasa is offering, because it's like a 20% return, but for them. And then the way you have to look at it is, you have to look at it from the standpoint of, okay, I can sleep at night. I don't have to worry about this. So if you're driving the real estate world and you have this, it's almost like you've owned another company on the side here and you're managing that. So it's just a matter of management. I realized quickly in my world, as far as investments, that I couldn't go into the house. It really put a pit in my stomach. So right away, when I purchased my first 2 investment properties, and I saw they didn't have the motorcycle, but they had other things. Like, there was gravy dripping off the kitchen table. I mean, there was curtains hanging. It made me like freak out. So I had to tell myself right away, if I want to keep these investment properties and not let them go, I have to create a boundary there where I don't have that anxiety. So I found my resources of having handymen, people that could do the work, that could go in there, see it and work through it and deal with it. The other thing too is that when I used to go in there as a landlord, and then knowing that you own that property, the first thing they're going to say is, oh my gosh, this is broke, that's broke, this broke. And if you're not used to hearing that, it's really, really kind of rude awakening. It'll make you feel like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? So like scripture says, guard your heart, for it's the wellspring of life. That's what I had to do. I had to really quickly tell myself, that's what I had to set that boundary. I think as people that are getting into this for the first time, that's very kind of some words of wisdom from somebody who's been through it for 20 years. Just if you're not that type of person to hammer away and be okay, and the person telling you that stuff, then quarterback it. Make sure you're treating it just like a business, and get yourself people that you trust that will be able to go in there and fix it for the right price.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, yeah, for sure. Getting that phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning that the furnace is busted, definitely it's not a phone. If you don't like getting those phone calls, of course, don't be a landlord. And there are people there maybe asking that, where do I put my money? Do I put it in the stock market? Do I put it in, or put it in real estate property? It really depends on your threshold, to your point, of what kind of aggravation can you tolerate. So if you can pretty high threshold of getting those 2 o'clock phone calls that the furnace is not working, then if you have a high threshold, of course, be a property owner. Otherwise, if you don't have a high threshold or comfort level with getting those phone calls, then focus your retirement on some other vehicle, either a business or stock market or mutual funds or Roth IRAs.
Yeah.
Bill, I want to recap. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask you a question. I'm so interested, because obviously we're all snowed in here in Illinois, and this is a perfect time to talk about second homes and Airbnbs. So what? Hey, pickleball. Bobby's on his way to his next pickleball event right now outside.
I'm all ears. What's up?
Oh my gosh. So what have you been out looking at properties? What are you seeing down there?
Not yet. I think we're gonna look on Saturday. Our schedule is pretty packed right now, but we do have. Thank you for that contact you gave. I think Joan may have some free time later in the week. She may look out or do some looking during a weekday instead of waiting for the weekend. So I think that's what's going to happen. I have a certain expectation that the market in Florida, especially around here as well, probably is just as bad or as crazy as ours. So if we have that certain expectation, we won't be so disappointed when we get disappointed. So it's a matter of level setting expectations. And I think as a potential buyer, that's what I'm expecting around here.
Yeah. And I think that, I think you nailed it earlier too, is, making sure that you're not settling, that's one of the things that I did one time is I didn't do my due diligence on the investment property, and I paid dearly for it. So it's a patience game. Anything that you do when it comes to investing financially, if you don't know it, don't do it. That's the first thing. If you're in the industry like Bobby and myself, and you can trust the professionals that are kind of walking you through it. You be responsive, not reactive. And I think that's a good call. It's like walking slowly through it, see what's out there, learn the environment, learn what you're seeing, and really sticking to those key points as to what are you looking for the property. Like I listened to a couple podcasts. One of them is Dave Ramsey, but Brian Buffini, he's one of the reasons why I brought up those 2 points of cash flow versus appreciation, because that's a good stopping point for me. I think it'll allow you to kind of look at that. The other one is Bigger Pockets. That's an investment company or investment podcast, if you're looking to do that too.
So Bill, I want to recap. I know we scheduled this for half an hour, but we could talk more.
Yeah.
Forever. But to recap really quick, what's your key message today to anyone purchasing a home, either in Illinois or even in the other states that you're licensed at? What's your key message?
So for two buyers out there, one, the millennial is don't lose hope with regards to this market. I think even if rates continue to go up, your difference on payment with regards to mortgage versus a rent is going to be huge. You're going to save so much more money right now because of the rates are still being low. Even if it's at 4.25, that's still historic low. But your difference on payment with regards to your mortgage versus rent is still going to save you a ton of money. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. Secondly, if you're buying and you're, the question, the theme that I'm hearing right now from people is I want to list, but I don't know where I would go because of the inventory. So that's why we discussed earlier in this call how to buy now, sell later. So it gives you that option to utilize your current equity, get Bobby to do a CMA for you, work that consultation on that end, see how much equity you have to work with, and then we set up an individual call. I would say do not, if that's the dream that you have, then I would say start there, and then we can check and see how we can get you into a house as a non-contingent purchase, and that's going to give you much less stress than being forced out of your house to buy another house. The third thing is investments. Like I mentioned, if you are buying a property, the biggest questions that I think I would have right now is what are you using the property for? Are you using it for cash flow or are you using it for appreciation? It just depends on what your long-term gain is. Brian Buffini had a great analogy. He's like, investments should be like watching your grass grow. It's not something that you're not gonna flip. If you're not into flipping, you're not gonna flip a house and make a ton of money right now. So that's kind of the way you have to, put that into the back of your mind when you're looking at buying properties.
Absolutely. What my summary key message would be, only know what we know. We know what the market is today.
Correct.
We can act on your goals today, or if you as a buyer has the patience and has the time to wait out the market in maybe 5 months or 4 months, if you have that tolerance, willing to work with your situation, that's probably what I would say. And there's always a solution to a problem. And your team, Bill, myself, Joan, and all our partners within the life cycle of the transaction will work really hard to, pardon the cliche, but really think outside the box to find a solution to your situation. So,
yeah, Bill? I'd also add too, we didn't mention this earlier, but Illinois in particular had 22,000 people leave the state last year. That was the most since World War II. So that's telling you there's an influx of people, like of moving into these other states, like where Bobby is right now into Florida. So with that being said, Bobby has connections. I'm licensed in 7 different states. I'm licensed in not only Illinois, but Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, Tennessee, South Carolina. I'm working on North Carolina right now, and then Florida. So he has connections. He's actually building that while he's down there in Florida as well. So if you're looking to, buy that second home, definitely contact us, especially if you're Illinois residents. We'll start here, and then we can work a reload package for you or help you get into an Airbnb or a vacation rental or just your second home if you wanted that to go rest, So I think that's something very critical. I think because people think I need to go down there and find the right people. Well, we're here. You know us. Let's start here. Let's package a deal up and let's connect you with somebody that Bobby knows that will be able to give you the red carpet service.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Bill. My name is Bobby Taruk with Joan Taruk, with Team Taruk, with Keller Williams Premier Properties. Bill Pendley with Caliber Home Loans. And thank you so much. If you're watching this later, we'll put all of our contact information in the link below, in the comment section below on YouTube. Thank you so much. Hopefully, Bill, this is not our last conversation. Maybe we need to start a podcast then.
Yeah, I say we do one more while you're down there, so at least I can see some of that sun you got.
Absolutely. I won't show you the pool because I don't want to make you jealous.
Yeah, right. All right.
the pool has a cover right now. So,
Oh, all right. Cool.
Bill, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, Bobby, as always.
Okay, have a great night, day now.